Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News, and we have a very interesting update for you regarding the Bachelorette, Rachel Lindsay, and Bryan Abasolo divorce. Bryan shared on his Instagram story that he hired a divorce coach, which immediately rose my interest. I go, this is a divorce coach. I mean, you could be a coach for anything. I guess, sure. A men's divorce coach. His videos, the divorce coaches, are online. We're going to watch some of them, but he actually has a 3-part exclusive coming out with Bryan Abasolo. So we're going to share what he posted. I'll break down my opinion. And my opinion on this is, while I do have an opinion, I am also going to try my best to reserve final judgment for what actually comes out of those 3 videos, because there are allegations and accusations that are being made right now. And I think you'd have to be an idiot to give a strong opinion either way until more information comes to the surface. Does this make sense? All right. So I know people have said, oh, Dave, you're pimping for Bryan. You're anti-Rachel Lindsay. I think my videos speak for themselves that that's not true. But either way, there's a few pieces of social media posted by Bryan. This here is just a sort of teaser for the interview that I guess is coming tomorrow. And then we've also got what Bryan said. So this is Rene Garcia, I believe is his name. And he is a divorce coach. And Bryan says, when I first met my divorce coach last year, I was emotionally and psychologically beaten down. I needed an objective opinion and guidance to make a huge decision. Now, anyone who's going through divorce, I'm sure, is emotionally beaten down. I guess the question one would ask is, was this Rachel's fault, or was it a mutual things just weren't working out? That's really what it comes down to, because with anything in life, you have to kind of be willing to take full blame for things, which is actually very interesting, because I've had this TikTok that I've wanted to play on my podcast, The Rush Hour, all week long. And this TikTok I actually have not played yet. So I actually think it gives Bryan really good advice. So let's watch.
What is the best advice you've ever heard or received?
I'll give you the sentence. And if you want me to explain it, I can, but everything is your fault.
Yeah, you can explain it.
Everything is your fault comes back to like you are the CEO of your life. My very first mentor that I had, I paid $500 a month to have my first coach when I was 19, about to turn 20.
Was he a divorce coach?
And we worked together for 2 years and we had some great calls. I don't remember any of them. I remember one. And what it was I had made so many excuses as to why I was late to calls, why I didn't hit my assignments, why I didn't do what I needed to do. And he had this really tough conversation and he said, Rob, if a business succeeds, whose fault is it? And I was like, I mean, what do you mean? He's like, if a business succeeds, all 1,000 employees move into the direction they have a successful year. Whose fault is it? That the person who orchestrated. I was like, the CEO. He said, if a business fails, whose fault is it?
All right, so we get the point. The point being that we have to take ownership over everything that happens to us. Now, obviously, if you're the victim of something, whatever, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying, Bryan and Rachel will each have to take ownership for their marriage, whether it was sham or not. And Bryan might say, well, but she toyed me along and she was, yes. If that is true to your story, absolutely. But moving forward, you have to take ownership. And I'm not saying that he's not, but let's continue with what he had to say. I credit Renaissance Man, who I now call a friend, for helping me face the PR tricks and gaslighting I was warned was coming. I'm thankful. If thinking of separating, find a divorce coach so you don't make a decision by reaction, but through clarity. My first question would be, not that I'm asking questions, is I wonder if they had a marriage coach first, before finding a divorce coach. I think it would be easier to be a divorce coach because you're not trying to repair something. You're trying to, I don't want to say play up to somebody's egos, but Renee's job isn't to worry about Rachel. His job's to be a best friend. The best friend types, like, F that guy, they're the worst, you're the best, you deserve better. And I think that's fair after a breakup that your friends fluff you up. Some of the divorce coach's videos are wildly interesting, to say the least. But let's go to the shared reel. Part 1 of 3, a new YouTube series with this divorce coach and Bryan drops tomorrow, Saturday, July 20th at noon Pacific Standard Time. I'm learning of this right now. I'm fascinated by what they might say.
So the boards of
Here's the teaser.
recovery coach, I've had the privilege of be introducing Bryan Abasolo from 2017's reality TV show, The Bachelorette.
You and I first spoke back in September 2023.
The foresight and emotional intelligence that Bryan displayed in reaching out was ingenious. So I asked him,
Did you know that you were going to file?
Bryan, he did the correct thing. He needed this private time to reflect on his own. So I asked him,
What did make you take that leap of faith?
That nothing was working, and I felt I was just existing.
How'd you find me?
To be honest, I was looking for videos on marriage and how separation works.
There it is. So he says, as a divorce and recovery coach, I've had the opportunity of working with all different types of men, all career levels, various age ranges, and from different backgrounds. Among those was 44-year-old Bryan Abasolo. And again, I say that accent with love. He's kind of Abasolo is very sexy. A chiropractor who moved to LA from Miami, former cast member on season 13 of The Bachelorette, and wellness influencer. Bryan faced a tough decision as he had enough of chasing, as he calls it, a constantly moving goalpost. And he expressed tolerating disingenuous behavior. The fear of gaslighting, media-fed attacks on his character, and bullying had been an excuse, thus delaying taking action. So that's interesting. So, and again, we'll have to wait and see what Bryan actually says. But what I'm hearing is Rachel, maybe he felt Rachel was a darling with the media. She obviously worked in that media space and felt like he was going to get bullied and attacked from the audience, which, again, not wrong. That is what's happened to a degree. Like, he's faced criticism. I don't know if criticism is the same as bullying, but at the same time, that pretty much happens, and I'm not saying it's right, but it happens to any couple that breaks up in the Bachelor world. Clayton faced it. Susie Evans faced it. Katie Thurston faced it. It kind of goes all over the place. Like, it's an audience of highly opinionated people. I'm happy to have been chosen to help him get clarity, be sure of his decision, and know what to expect. This educational and relatable video, set to release this Saturday on my YouTube channel, Men's Divorce Coach, was recorded earlier this year, 2024, in mid-February. It will be series 1 of 3. Since filing for the divorce in January, Bryan has stayed committed to his personal development and the growth of his practice. Tune in for a deeper look at Bryan's journey this Saturday. Now, I've got several thoughts about this. The comments are brutal, right? The comments are going to say, if you could afford a divorce coach, you didn't need Rachel's money, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at this as it's more a publicity thing, so far as I don't think Bryan's paying this divorce coach. And people might say, Dave, he's feeding you information. For the love of God, I have my own opinions. You know what I mean? And my opinion is this is a bad look. A bad look, and I'll tell you why. Rachel hasn't spoken out at all regarding what went wrong in the relationship. She's really bit her tongue. And the person who, I don't want to say cries wolf because that's not the right word, but in these types of relationships, the high road speaks volumes. Take a personal instance. I had something that, happened recently where I was like, really handed one, right? And my response was to just like, kind of not respond to it. And I know I may be talking about it now, and I have spoken about it on several podcasts, but the high road of just like not trying to respond with like energy is something very easily digested by an audience. If Bryan just said, hey, if he just made a statement going like, geez, it just wasn't working out, put it this way, there are no kids involved. Now, obviously, there's been this settlement where she's paying him $13,000 a month, which he probably considers bad PR because everyone's like, oh, how could you, blah, blah, blah. I think that was going to happen regardless. And that's sort of the price you pay for doing that in the world, right? If he just took the high road and filed for bankruptcy and moved on, he wouldn't have had to deal with that. But he felt rightful that he deserved a 50-50 split of the shared income from that time period. So who are we to judge? Now, would we judge someone for having a female divorce coach? And that's an honest question. Would we judge someone for having plenty of people have like a spiritual leader, an energy leader, I've been to sound baths where my wife's like, we're going to go to a sound bath at the yoga studio. And I go, well, this sounds stupid, but I do believe in sound as an energy. And it was actually a good time. So my point being is that we do fall into gender roles, and I think it's okay to break away from them. I'm not saying I endorse what this divorce coach is preaching. But even a broken clock is right twice a day. So the divorce coach has some reels that are laughably like, what's going on? And then they've got some reels that I go, yeah, exercise is good. In this one video, he mentions the advice of trimming your balls. And I mean, hey, good hygiene, sure. Let's just have a listen.
So, of course, style is either seen as femme or selfish, because we could be doing something with the family. Meanwhile, your ex, she would go get her hair and nails done and whiten her teeth and be missing for hours. But guys, we can't do that shit. Here, take a selfie, I dare you. Take a selfie in public, or worse, take a few of them at the bars. Even girls would look at you with disgust. Just try it. I forgot one thing. Working out and trimming your balls. That's acceptable.
There you go. You're allowed to work out and trim your balls. I don't exactly understand some of his principles, but it does seem a little personal. And I think this is a problem. You know, I've been accused of being in the manosphere, which I would say this is more manosphere content. This like, men deserve to go get their nails done too. And it's like, okay. I do think there are times, like in divorces, as we've talked about through the Clayton case, where family court immediately sides with the woman. But in Bryan's case, it seemed more than fair for him. I mean, he's getting $13,000 a month. There are no kids involved. So in the posts that are shared, some of them here on Reddit, we see the divorce coach talking about the silver bullet method in divorces, a strategy used by your ex-wife to make false or exaggerated claims of DV against you. We don't know that any of this has happened. And again, Bryan hasn't accused Rachel of any of this. These are just sort of things that are being shared by this divorce coach. You might come from a relationship where you are accused of certain things, and that's not a good thing. That's not happening here. And I bring that up because when you do have a divorce coach that is sharing all of these different things, let me see if I can go to his page right here. He is going to have some pretty bonkers things going on. And by the way, and again, this is just my opinion. I don't want to be sued for harassment, or excuse me, I don't want to be sued for defamation. He looks, in my opinion, completely yoked out of his mind. As far like you don't see men in their 50s or 60s with deltoid muscles like this. But hey, do what you got to do, you know?
Reason 2 is epinephrine, also known as your adrenaline, and that's going to increase during exercise. It's going to boost your energy and focus.
It feels like we're watching a documentary of like found footage from the 80s, but this is what, I mean, does he have a droid? What camera is this? Either way, some of the advice, like I said, is exercise. Yes, exercise is really good. It's good to do when you're married. It's good to do when you're going through tough times. Like the best thing you can do, like, is the Forrest Gump method. Get out there and run. Do anything. Move your body. Get your heart rate up. Exercise, not just because it'll shed all of these sort of toxins and all of that, but it just boosts you. So that's good. But I'm afraid that if you were to really audit some of the things being said here, it's just a lot of like women will take advantage of you in a divorce. They're going to rob you for, and I think that's a result of the bitterness that can come from a divorce, right? There's nothing more personal than ending something with somebody, and you invest time and you feel like your time's lost and you're scorned and all of that. But just to respond to the silver bullet method, I had to look it up because I'd never heard it before. Now, the silver bullet in like mythology is used to kill a vampire, right? So I guess the idea of a silver bullet is the idea that like maybe someone in a divorce will come after you with damning, accusations. It doesn't have to be one-sided. It could be Bryan doing it to Rachel. I don't believe either party has done that. There is nothing in the court documents that show Rachel accusing Bryan of cheating or DV or any of that. And there's nothing accusing showing Bryan accusing her of that. But I did look online, and just to be fair, I'm going to play one or two different videos from, I guess, a lawyer talking about what a silver bullet is.
One of the worst things I encounter in custody cases is something called a silver bullet. A silver bullet is a false allegation that's used to get an advantage in a custody case.
And I'll stop right there because they specifically talk about custody cases. So again, Bryan's not accusing her of anything. She's not accusing him of anything. There is no custody case. And because of all of that, my best free advice to Bryan would be to just move on, do one podcast talking about your divorce and never talk about it again. Just never just say I've talked about it and I'm never, and just live your good life. Take that $13,000 a month you're going to get for the next 2 years or whatever the case may be and move on. Now, that might be a little too late. And maybe the conversation with this men's divorce coach will take that route. Maybe it'll take that route. My guess is this divorce coach may speak to Bryan in a way that will try to urge him to be the victim. And in the end, as we shared with this advice, even if Bryan feels like he might be the victim of gaslighting or manipulation, if he wanted to win over the public opinion, he would have to A, provide receipts. You would have to do that. Or B, just not even go there. That's really the crux of it all, is like in the audience world that we live, it's like, come with receipts. If and again, I don't think these receipts are going to exist. But if she was like completely living a separate life and lying to him and actually didn't want kids and all, if all of that were the case and he had that smoking gun evidence, well, show that. And then if you feel duped, show that, expose it, and move on with your life. I just don't think that's what's going to happen. And if it's a he said, she said, I don't think anybody wins right there. But I tell you what, I don't know if I'll be watching this the second it airs, but I absolutely will be checking out this YouTube video and letting you guys know what I think of it. But again, let's just wait and see. You know, I'm obviously reporting on this because that's what we do. Now, I hate to say this, but he gives style advice, and I hate to say this, but I actually like the shirt he's wearing.
Brief ideas on summer wear, on something to wear at the pool.
It's a good shirt. Now, the shorts, I don't know if I've got the quads or tan line to pull it off, but to each their own. All right, well, that probably will be it for me on this Friday. I'm toying with the idea of another video of, so if you do see more content from me, feel free to click on it. I will have a podcast up this afternoon. It might be, the next couple podcasts might be the most important podcasts of the year, as the political world and entertainment news world is merging into some crazy, crazy stories. So click down below. I've got the podcast. You can just search my name, Dave Neal, wherever you listen to podcasts, and go check it out. I hope you thought this was fair. To summarize, too long didn't listen, although you did. I would tell Bryan to ditch this guy and just move on and try to live a happy life. That's what I would tell him. And maybe we'll get that after the interview. We'll have to see how it goes. We're waiting. We'll talk to you guys after this.